today I got another hot one for you from the request of Reddit. One of my Reddit followers. I appreciate all of you, especially the ones that come from Reddit, because that's where I came out of. And I'm always going to show you guys love first and foremost. So it's that above all. So secondly, definitely I want to say rest in peace. This story, this report, homicide report today is about L.A. Capone. L.A. Capone. 600 L.A. Capone. Rest in peace to him. The infamous name of L.A. Capone, man. And rest in peace to him. Excuse me. This one I didn't get a chance to reread through, so I will be reading this whole one through. It is only about 30 pages. So yeah, you just bear with me, and we'll get through this. So yeah, let's do it. So the incident itself, the occurrence was on 7040 South Stony Island Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, in an alley in the 092. Occurrence date is September 26, 2013, 1825, 100 hours. Family members were notified for this case. No communications. Victim's name is Leonard Anderson. Residence is 7250 South Bennett Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. Male, black, 5'7", age 17, date of birth 96, year. 160 pounds, brown eyes, black hair, dreadlocks, medium brown complexion. There is one witness so far, and it is a male, black, 5'2", 105 pounds. He's 17 years old, same age as L.A. Capone, and he's also born in 96. He has dreadlock hair, black hair, medium brown complexion. On another thing, before I get started fully in here, I didn't mean to hijack it, but I also want to say thanks to the comments on some of my YouTube videos. I appreciate the feedback, like if I'm going too fast or if I'm going too slow, am I too animated? All of that stuff helps out. So I appreciate all of you. But we have a second witness here also, and it is a male, black, 5'6", brown eyes, reddish auburn hair, a ponytail hairstyle, medium brown complexion, and he is 31 years of age at this time in 2013. And his birth year is 1982. The injury information for the victim: he was given first aid. Yes, the injury extent was fatal. It was a responding unit. He was picked up by ambulance 55. And the hospital was Northwestern Memorial. The type of injury was gunshot. The weapon used was a handgun. Other weapon used, other unknown. So, victim relationship and Leonard Anderson is an unknown of unknown. Leonard Anderson, gang name Black Disciples. So they know at this point he has gang affiliation. Other unknown suspect fled northbound from 23458 Alley. Miscellaneous. Victim information provided. Was flash message sent? No. Event number 13063. In summary, responding officers responded to a person shot at the above location, at which time Beat 371 confirmed victim lying on the ground with one gunshot wound to the left groin. Responding officers asked victim who shot him, and he stated, "I don't know." Witness redacted related to responding officers that she observed an unknown male in a black hoodie flee the scene heading northbound down the alley. Engine 72 and EMS 5 arrived on scene. Victim was transported by EMS 55 to Northwestern Hospital and was C by redacted and was pronounced dead at 20:33 hours from a one gunshot wound to the groin area. Officers on crime scene 312 guarded crime scene 371, 369, 369B, 361. E notifications Detective Fredek Beat 5160A notified at 1844 hours, and Detective Barnett number 21221 slash Felton number 20237, and they are all notified. These are all officers that are notified at the time of this homicide, just to not read through all of the individuals. And you can see the personnel is listed here as well. So going down to the next page, this is the Field Investigative Morgue Report. They list out the victim. They have no suspects at this current time. They recovered evidence from the scene, just blood swabs, 2 spent .45 caliber shell casings, and 1 fired bullet. Now they have witnesses, witness descriptions. Black male 17, date of birth 96, same as above. So these are the same witnesses that they listed above. And now we're getting into the investigation report. HW 468490 ME number 388, September 13, Unit 610. On September 27, 2013, Dr. Soriano performed an autopsy on the remains of Leonard Anderson and determined the cause and manner of death to be multiple gunshot wounds / homicide. The external examination. Number 1. Gunshot wound, entered right lower back, above kidney, and lodged. Number 2. Gunshot wound entered right upper thigh, rear thigh, exited right inner groin. Internal examination. 1 large caliber copper jacketed bullet. 01 medium cal old oxidized bullet. This is the field investigation report by this John Halloran at this time, detective. Now they have more evidence, it seems. They have inventoried a Samsung cell phone that was found in the alley at this time, which is really interesting. Seems to be the same evidence as before there, with just this one new. Now the witnesses seems to be the same. Red auburn hair, 31-year-old black male, and the 17-year-old black male, the dreads as well. Still the same witnesses. Family member notified is redacted. Cell phone number is redacted. Okay, and it's just suspects unknown, witness. So potentially they believe maybe there are multiple suspects, as they have them listed as unknown here. All right. Investigation. Victim, Anderson Leonard. Victim, or V for his middle name potentially. Male 1. 01 September 95. 7250 South Bennett, 2nd floor. Cell phone, redaction. Student at Sullivan High School. Gang affiliation, Black Disciples, Descendants of David, aka L.A. Capone. IR number redacted. Wanted, male 1, 5'5", thin, bald, light complexion. No, maybe this is supposed to be black. I'm not sure. Thin build. I'm sorry, y'all. Male 1, 5'5", thin build, light complexion, short haircut, wearing black hooded sweatshirt. Again, I didn't pre-read this report here, so excuse me for any mistakes that I might make. All right, injuries: the gunshot wound to the lower right back lodged. T&T, gunshot wound to the back of the right thigh, exited at the right groin, fatal. So they're concluding that that was the fatal shot that killed L.A. Capone, not necessarily the one in the back, but the one that was to the back of the right thigh and exited out of his groin. He was transported to Northwestern Hospital via CFD ambulance number 55. He was pronounced at 2300 hours by Dr. Redaction. ME case number 388, September 13, ME investigator Johnson number 73. The weapon was a .45 caliber handgun that was not recovered. Date, time, and location is September 26, 2013, 1825 hours at 7040 South Stony Island in the rear. It's weather and lighting at the time of the crime: clear, warm, and artificial lighting usually means street lights. Manner and motive: victim stepped outside of a music studio and into the rear alley when an unknown offender approached and shot the victim to death. Motive unknown at this time. Identified by redacted. Evidence: they have blood swabs. They have the 2.45 caliber spent shell casings, the one fired bullet, all recovered in the alley. One Samsung cell phone recovered from the alley, but it is inoperable, broken, potentially. These are the personnels assigned, all the detectives. They have witnesses here, and they are beginning interviews. And this is Christopher McCormick, who is a CFD paramedic on ambulance number 55. Shop was closed when she arrived at 1845 hours to cut one client's hair. While cutting hair, she heard sirens and saw police cars on Stony Island. Did not hear any shots fired. Could add nothing further. Redaction: arrived at Imani Hair to get hair done. Heard no shots fired. Couldn't add nothing further. Redaction: abandoned. Redaction: closed at time of canvass. Redaction: was in her rear yard with small children when she heard two gunshots fired in the alley. She looked into the alley, but her vision was obscured by a wooden fence. She observed a shadow run north in the alley between Harper and Stony Island. She did not hear a commotion before the shots were fired. Redacted: was not home at the time of incident. When she arrived home, police were already on the scene. Redacted: did not hear anything. A neighbor told her the police were on the scene. Could add nothing. Redacted: heard two shots fired. Saw nothing. Could add nothing further. Redacted: heard two gunshots. Saw nothing. Redacted: heard a few gunshots, but saw nothing. Redacted: returned home from the grocery store and saw police already on the scene. Redacted: heard two shots fired. Saw nothing. Gang conflict number GCCE003009 GD/BD conflict. Investigation: the investigation revealed that the victim Leonard Anderson, aka L.A. Capone, and the eyewitness redacted are both members of the Black Disciple, descendant of David Street gang members. The victim and the witness went to the music studio located on the second floor at 7034 South Stony Island at approximately 1500 hours. At the time of the shooting, both the victim and witness went out and sat on the back steps to the music studio. The victim then walked to the alley while the witness remained on the rear steps. A lone gunman walked up to the victim and shot him twice. No words were exchanged prior to the shooting. The gunman then ran north in the alley. The victim sustained a gunshot wound to the lower right back, which was lodged. He sustained a second T&T gunshot wound, which entered at the back of his right thigh and exited at the right groin. CFD ambulance number 55 responded and transported the victim to Northwestern Hospital. The victim was conscious at the time. The victim told paramedic Christopher McCormack that a car drove up in the alley. The victim stated that he then heard 5-6 shots fired and that the gunman got back into the car. The car drove away. The victim then lost consciousness. The victim did not give the paramedic any further detail or description of the offender or the vehicle used. The victim never regained consciousness, and the responding detectives never had an opportunity to interview him. The victim died as a result of his injuries. He was pronounced at 20:33 hours by redacted. ME Investigator Johnson, number 73, was notified. ME case number 388, September 13, was assigned. The victim's redacted was at the hospital and was notified of the victim's death. She positively identified the victim at the hospital. The scene was observed as follows. The shooting occurred in the West Alley at 7040 South Stony Island. The Atmosphere Hair Salon is located at 7040 South Stony Island on the first floor. There are cameras on the rear of the hair salon which point to the parking lot. However, these cameras are fake and inoperable. A music studio is located on the second floor at that location. There is a parking lot which has the capacity to park approximately 10 to 12 vehicles in the rear west of the building. At the west end of the parking lot is the West Alley of Stony Island. The responding detectives observed a pool of blood at the alley line of this parking lot. A cell phone was observed on the ground near the blood. There were two spent .45 caliber cartridge cases, on the ground in the alley next to the blood. A fired bullet was observed on the ground in the alley next to the blood. A second inoperable cell phone was observed on the ground in the parking lot near the garage door located at the northwest end of the parking lot. The Cutting Edge Barber Shop is located at 7038 South Stony Island. This shop was closed at the time of the responding detectives' on-scene investigation. Attempts to gather any further evidence or witness information at this location subsequently proved negative. A vacant lot is located at 7034 through 36 South Stony Island. At 7032 South Stony Island is the Imani Hair Care Shop, which was closed. At 7030 South Stony Island is an abandoned building. At 7042 South Stony Island is an abandoned 3-flat building with exposed rear porches that have shuttered windows and doors. BT 5815 E.T. Hannigan responded to the scene. The scene was searched for any physical evidence. The .245 caliber spent shell casings and one fired bullet observed in the alley at 7040 South Stony Island was recovered as described in the format of this report. The scene was photographed. A search for any pod or private video proved negative at this time. A canvass of the area was conducted with the results listed above in the interviewed category. Attempts to locate any other witnesses proved negative at this time. The responding detectives learned from Beat 312 POs Butler and police officers Butler and Gomez that an eyewitness was on the scene but had left. They identified this witness as redacted. BT 5182 detectives Barnett and Felton went to Northwestern Hospital. They learned that the victim had died as a result of his injuries. They had an opportunity to speak with the victim's redacted. She could not provide any information as to the identity of the shooters or the motive for it. She was left with the responding detective's contact information. BT 5182 detectives Barnett and Felton also had occasion to locate Redaction at Northwestern. Redaction then informed them that he is a friend of the victim and that he was with him at the time of the shooting. Redaction stated earlier in the day he and the victim were at court for a criminal trespass to land case. They were there from 0900 hours to 1400 hours. After that, they were driven home by Redaction. Stated that at 1500 hours, a neighbor, known only as Redaction, drove he and Anderson to the music studio on the second floor of 7040 South Stony Island. Redaction stated that there were no incidents while there. He stated that prior to the shooting, he and Anderson left the studio and sat on the back steps. Anderson then walked to the alley. Redaction did not know why he did so, but suggested he may have been looking for a ride. Redaction stated that he remained on the steps when Anderson walked to the alley. Redaction stated that he observed a male black, approximately 5'5" tall, with a thin build, light complexion, and short hair, approach the victim on foot. The subject then shot at the victim 4 times. He stated that the offender held the gun with both hands as he fired. The offender then ran northbound in the alley. The investigation remains in progress. Report of Detectives J. Halloran, number 20453, and J. Murray, number 21128. Now, I think I will go ahead and pause it here. Well, no, let's just keep reading. We'll keep reading. We're not going to pause it. We're on a roll now. I want to know what happens. This is a field investigation. Cleared, closed, arrest and prosecution report. Victims: Leonard and Anderson Leonard, male, black, 17. His residence, 7250 South Bennett. Description: 5'7", 160, black hair, dreadlocks. And this is L.A. Capone. Now we actually have an offender. Wow. And this offender's name is Maize Michael. And he is currently in custody at this time of this report. He's male, black, and 22. He was born in 92 year. His residence was 6209 South Greenwood Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. Actions: the offender fled northbound from alley. Relationship of victim to offender: no relationship. Gang information: unlisted criminal, Young Money. Organization: not listed. Gang identifiers: admission. So this means he admitted that he was in a gang to them. Young Money specifically. Wow, another suspect is a Hardy Johnson, Saki, in custody. He is a male, black, 18. His alias is Little Mick. Little Mick. Date of birth is 96. His residence is 7031 South Chapel Avenue, apartment 1B, Chicago, Illinois. CB number 189-596-85. Relationship of victim to offender: none. Unlisted criminal organization: Young Money. Gang identifiers: admission. We have another suspect, Buchanan Miko, male, black, 23. Date of birth: 91. Year. Residence: 616 West 60th Street, Chicago, Illinois. CB number 189-60444. Relationship of victim to offender is none. Gang information: unlisted criminal organization, Met Boys. Gang identifiers: by admission. Victim's injuries: Anderson Leonard is a gunshot wound, handgun, other unknown. Extent is fatal, injured by offender. Chicago Fire Department provided first aid. CFD responding unit was Ambulance 55. Hospital was Northwestern Memorial, authorized by Johnson number 73, and the physician name is redacted. The victim transported to Anderson Leonard was transported to Northwestern Memorial by Allied Removal Service on September 26, 2013. Location of incident: 7040 South Stony Island Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 092 Alley. Date and time: September 26, 2013, 18:2500 hours. We have this is death information and the autopsy. Date of death: September 26, 2013, 2033. They were pronounced by Dr. Aldine on September 26, 2013 at 2023. Autopsy date: September 27, 2013. Performed by Soriano. Cause of death: gunshot wound. Homicide file number 13 through 112. Medical examiner number 388 SEP 13. Homicide suspect information. Maize Michael. Immediately identified but not on scene identified through investigation admitted to crime. Wow. Taken into custody by 193-610. Motive is gang related. Hardy Johnson Saki. Immediately identified but not on scene identified through investigation admitted to crime. Taken into custody by 193/610. Motive gang related. Buchanan Miko, immediately identified but not on scene, identified through investigation, admitted to crime, taken into custody by 193-610, motive gang related. Method codes, person shot. CAU codes, gang related. And other property recovered. This is the evidence. Personnel assigned, and the witnesses. So it looks like the same witnesses here. Scrolling down. And now we have associations. Alright. Criminal record, IUCR associations for this homicide and first degree murder. For the victim, now we have Michael Maize listed as offender. With him having associated arrests, or with there being associated arrests with this case. Investigation. In custody, Maize Michael, male, 1, 21, date of birth, 92. 6209 South Greenwood. Gang affiliation, Young Money, aka Rockhead. IR number, redacted. CB number, 189-9625. FBI number, redacted. SID number, redacted. Cook County inmate number, 2014-0714-001. Hardy Johnson Saki, male, 118, date of birth, 96. 7031 South Chapel, apartment 1B. Gang affiliation, Young Money, aka Lil Mick. Buchanan, Miko, male, 123, date of birth, 91 year, 616 West 60th Street. Gang affiliation, Met Boys. IR number, redacted. CB number, 1896044. FBI number, redacted. SID number, redacted. Cook County inmate number, 2014-0316-146. Offender, deceased, Amanda Fitch, female, 124, date of birth, 89, 4728 South Ellis. Gang affiliation, Mickey Cobra, aka Big A. This offender was murdered on November 14th, 2013, recorded under RD number HW 533515. And they have the arresting officers listed here. Gang investigation officers. Date, time, location of arrest for Maize is August 20th, 2014, 7:15 hours at 5101 South Wentworth. Hardy Johnson on the 21st of August 2014, 12:40 hours at 7031 South Chapel, apartment 1B. Buchanan, 22, August 22nd, 2014, 14:15 hours at 2800 South Sacramento. Charges and court information. All three offenders charged with first-degree murder scheduled to appear in Branch 66 on 25th of August 2014. Manner and motive. Offenders laid in wait for victim to emerge from a music studio for the purpose of shooting him. Motive, gang violence. Notifications, felony review. So all the people who were notified, personnel assigned, gang investigations. All right, now we have some new people who are being interviewed, and it is actually a Cook County inmate, interestingly enough. All right, so this is a redaction, male, 124, date of birth. It looks to be either, I would just say it's 1990. Gang affiliation denied. He denied any gang affiliation. His AKA is here, redacted. IR number redacted, FBI number redacted, SID number redacted, and his Cook County inmate number is redacted as well. We have some more interviewees. There's a D here, yes, to this name, but it's a male, 123, date of birth is in 90 as well, and it is Young Money, a Young Money member. Redacted, male 116, date of birth 97, redacted, gang affiliation denied. There was another one here, it seems to be a female, 35, date of birth is in 79. All right, statements. Michael Maize, first, oral to responding detectives, video recorded under ERI log number V70166. S. Hardy Johnson, oral to responding detectives, video recorded under ERI log numbers V70088 and V70176. Miko Buchanan, oral to responding detectives, video recorded under ERI log numbers V70170 and V70771. Deshaun Carpenter, requesting attorney, recorded under ERI log number V70086, duplicate of V70087. Investigation. In furtherance of this investigation, gang investigators P.O. Haven Matthews, number 3698, informed the responding detectives that on 23rd of July 2014, he had a conversation with Cook County Jail inmate Michael Maize. During this briefing, Maize indicated to Matthews that he had knowledge of the murder of L.A. Capone. Leonard Anderson, Maize indicated to Matthews that the shooter was a subject known to him as Lil Mick, Saki Johnson. Maize indicated that Johnson was with Miko Buchanan and Amanda Fitch at the time of the murder. He further stated that redaction was in the studio while the victim was there and at the time of the murder. Maize informed Matthews that redaction called him and informed him that Anderson was at the studio. They all went to the studio where Lil Mick Johnson then killed Anderson. Maize informed Matthews that he would be willing to speak with responding detectives concerning his knowledge of this murder. Gang investigations P.O. Nate Gadzik, number 10656, further informed the responding detectives that he had received information that a subject known as the Redacted was smoking with Lil Mick, Saki Johnson, and at that time, Johnson made an admission to Redacted that he committed this murder. On August 20th, 2014, the responding detectives requested a temporary release of Cook County inmate Michael Maize. Maize was transported from the county jail directly to the office of Area Central Detective Division. Maize was placed into interview room number 4 at 16:47 hours with ERI recording equipment already activated. Maize was interviewed by Detectives Halloran and Hickey. Maize was advised of his Miranda rights, to which he related he understood and waived. Maize related that he is a member of the Young Money street gang. He stated that he did not know the victim Leonard Anderson, aka L.A. Capone, personally, but that he did know that he was a music rapper who is also affiliated with the 600 street gang. He explained that 600 are rivals and are at war with Young Money. Maize stated that the war between the rival gangs started in 2012 while Maize was locked up. Maize stated that on the date of this murder, a subject known to him as Redacted, now known as Redacted, was working at the music studio at 71st and Stony Island. Redacted stated that redaction called Lil Mick, now known as Saki Hardy Johnson, and told him that Anderson was at the music studio making music. Maize related that he, Lil Mick Hardy Johnson, and Miko Buchanan were on the block at 51st and Prairie. Hardy Johnson and Miko Buchanan got Redacted gray four-door Taurus they called Amanda Fitch. She showed up on the block in her white four-door Lumina. Maize stated that Miko Buchanan got a .45 caliber handgun from the gang's hiding place on the block. Buchanan gave the handgun to Lil Mick Hardy Johnson. Maize stated that he knew the gun to be a .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol because he saw it. Maize stated that Buchanan drove the Taurus with Hardy Johnson seated as the front passenger as the front passenger seat. He stated that Hardy Johnson was armed with the .45 caliber pistol. Maize stated that he and Amanda Fitch followed Buchanan and Hardy Johnson in the white Lumina. He stated that they were going to the music studio on Stony Island to shoot Leonard Anderson. Maize stated that when they got to the music studio, Fitch and Maize parked in the lot behind the studio. He stated that Buchanan and Hardy Johnson parked in the alley approximately 4 houses to the north of the studio. Maize stated that he and Fitch went into the studio to see if L.A. Capone Anderson was there. He stated that Redacted told him that Anderson was in the booth making music. Maize stated that Redaction made phone calls back and forth to Lil Mick Hardy Johnson. Wow. Maize stated that Anderson went out the back of the studio to use a cell phone. Maize stated that 30 seconds to a minute later, he heard 2 shots fired. Maize went out to see what had happened. Maize stated he then observed Lil Mick Hardy Johnson standing over Anderson, who was down on the ground. He stated he observed Hardy Johnson holding the .45 caliber in his hand as he stood over Anderson. He stated he observed Hardy Johnson run back to the car that Buchanan was waiting in. Maize stated that he was still on the back porch of the studio when he observed Buchanan and Hardy Johnson drive away from the scene southbound through the alley. He stated that he and Fitch left the scene before the police arrived. Maize further stated that the following day, Lil Mick Hardy Johnson bragged that he shot Anderson in the face. Maize subsequently identified photos of Leonard Anderson as the victim, L.A. Capone, Amanda Fitch as Big A, Miko Buchanan, and Saki Hardy Johnson as Lil Mick. He further identified photos of Redaction. This is not a verbatim account, but only a summary for a verbatim account of the interviews of Maize. See ERI log number V70166. On August 20th, 2014, the responding detectives requested a temporary release of Cook County inmate Redacted. Redacted was transported directly to the office area Central Detective Division. Once there, Redacted was interviewed by the responding detectives. Redacted denied that he was also known as Redacted. He stated that he does work as an apprentice engineer at the music studio on 70th and Stony Island. He explained that the studio is the home of Redaction. He stated that he knows Leonard Anderson to also be called L.A. Capone. Redaction stated that he is aware that Anderson is affiliated with Redaction and that they could be into it, meaning at war with the Brick Squad and or other gangs. Redaction stated that he was at the studio on the date of Anderson's murder. He stated that Anderson arrived at the studio with some of his friends and did a music set. Redaction stated that he did not know of any of the conflict between Anderson and any others on that night. Redaction stated that he was present when Anderson made his music. He denied that he made a phone call or during any phone conversation told anyone that Anderson was at the studio. Redacted stated that Anderson's session lasted 2.5 hours to 3 hours long. Redacted stated that Redaction was present at the studio during Anderson's session. Redaction denied knowing Michael Maize, Rockhead, Lil Mick, Saki Hardy Johnson, Miko Buchanan, or Amanda Fitch. He further stated that he did not witness the shooting and had no further information regarding Anderson's murder. Redaction subsequently requested an attorney. The questioning was terminated. On August 20th, 2014, Redaction was located and interviewed in the office area Central. His Redaction was also notified and asked to come into the office area Central. Redaction and his Redaction were advised the nature of this conversation. Redaction stated that he has known Lil Mick Saki Hardy Johnson for 2 to 3 years. He stated he only knows him to say, "What's up?" in passing. He stated he only knows Rockhead, Michael Maize, for the same 2 or 3 years. He denied knowing Miko Buchanan, excuse me. Redaction stated that he also knows the victim, L.A. Capone, Leonard Anderson. Redaction denied that he had any knowledge concerning the murder of Anderson. He denied that Lil Mick Johnson told him of his involvement in the murder. Redaction identified photos of Saki Hardy Johnson as Lil Mick, Michael Maize as Rockhead, and Leonard Anderson as L.A. Capone. On the 21st of August at 12:40 hours, the AOs located Saki Hardy Johnson at his residence of 7031 South Chapel, Apartment 1B. The responding detectives were allowed entry by his redacted. They were advised of the nature of the investigation. Saki Hardy Johnson was taken into custody and transported directly to the office of Area Central Detective Division. His mother, redacted, followed the transport of Johnson into the area. Once in the area, Johnson was placed into interview room 8 with ERI equipment already activated. Johnson was advised of his Miranda rights, to which he related he understood and waived. Johnson stated that his previous arrest for UUW was thrown out of court for lack of probable cause. He explained that the weapon he was arrested with at that time was a .45 caliber black semi-automatic pistol loaded with 9 live rounds. He explained that he got that weapon from some homies from the block of 51st and Cottage Grove. Johnson further explained that he is a member of the Young Money Street Gang. He stated that he knows L.A. Capone, Leonard Anderson, and that Anderson is a member of the 600 Street Gang. Johnson stated that Young Money and the 600 Gang are into it, meaning at war with each other. Johnson stated that he knows Big A, Amanda Fitch. He stated that he believes she was killed by the 4-6 Woodlawn crew. Johnson stated that he is friends with Rockhead, Michael Maize. He knows that Maize was in the vehicle with Fitch when she was murdered. Wow. Maize told him how Fitch's murder occurred. Johnson stated that Maize may have been involved in Fitch's murder. Johnson further stated that he also knows Redaction and Miko Buchanan. He stated that Maize and Buchanan are currently locked up in the county jail. He further stated that he knows of the music studio at 70th and Stony Island, and that he associates with a subject known as Redacted from the studio. Johnson subsequently stated that on the night of Anderson's murder, he, Johnson, was on 51st and Prairie with Maize and Miko Buchanan. While there, Maize received a phone call from Redacted, informed Maize that Anderson was at the studio making a song about Maize. Johnson stated that Maize told him that he learned from Redacted that Anderson was at the studio making a song about them. He stated that Maize asked him to go with them to kill Anderson. Johnson stated that he initially refused to go. He stated that he and Maize discussed the fact that the 600 gang killed their friend Fathead, Antonio Davis. Johnson stated that he was at the scene of this murder. He explained that he went with Maize and Buchanan in the Gray Taurus. He stated that they went to a gas station in the area of 67th and Stony Island and met up with Amanda Fitch. He stated that at the gas station, he got into the car with Amanda Fitch. Johnson stated that he and Fitch trailed Maize and Buchanan to the studio. He stated that Buchanan was driving with Maize, seated as the front passenger. He stated he did not know whether Maize or Buchanan was going to do the shooting. He stated that Maize and Buchanan drove into the alley and parked. Johnson stated that he and Fitch parked on 70th Street facing King Drive. Johnson explained that he and Fitch were trailing Maize and Buchanan to keep the police off of them if the need arose. Johnson stated that he knew there was a gun in the car with Buchanan and Maize. He explained that the gun belonged to Buchanan. He stated that when they were on 51st Street, they got the phone call alerting them that Anderson was in the studio. Johnson stated that he did not see Buchanan get the gun, but Buchanan said it was his gun. Buchanan told Maize not to get caught with it as Maize was loading the gun. He explained that Maize was loading the gun in the car as soon as they got into the car to leave for the studio. He stated that there were only 2 or 3 rounds in the gun. Johnson stated that after they parked the cars, they waited 20 to 30 minutes. He then heard 2 or 3 shots fired. Maize and Buchanan then pulled out of the alley with Buchanan driving and Maize as the front passenger. He stated that after the shooting, Fitch dropped him back off on 51st Street. They all then met in Washington Park where Maize said it was done. Johnson identified photos of Redacted as Redacted, Michael Maize as Rockhead, Miko Buchanan, Redacted as the victim, Leonard Anderson as L.A. Capone, and the victim, Leonard Anderson as L.A. Capone. At 18:09 hours on August 21st, defense attorney Redacted arrived at the area to represent Saki Hardy. He was given access to Johnson. The ERI audio and video was blocked for the attorney's conversation with Johnson. After the conversation, Johnson related that he would still talk to responding detectives. Johnson denied shooting the victim during any of those conversations with responding detectives. This is not a verbatim account, but only a summary. For a verbatim account of the interviews of Saki Hardy Johnson, see ERI log number V70088 and V701167. On August 21st, 2014, Redaction and his redaction were asked to come into the office of Area Central in furtherance of this investigation. Redaction continued to deny that Lil Mick Hardy Johnson told him that he had committed the murder. Redaction viewed Saki Hardy Johnson as Johnson sat in an interview room. Redaction identified him as Lil Mick. Redaction was located and interviewed in the office of Area Central. Redaction related that he used to be a member of the Young Money Street Gang, but he has put that lifestyle behind him. He stated that he is familiar with the music studio at 70th and Stony Island. He stated that a subject known to him as Redaction runs that studio. Redaction stated that on the date of Leonard Anderson's murder, Redaction was at the studio to finish a rap song that he was working on. He stated that he was with Redaction. Redaction stated that when he and Redaction got to the studio, Redaction put them into a quiet room because there was a pay session already in progress. Redaction stated that he called Young Money gang member Rockhead, Michael Maize, on Redaction phone and told him to come and join them at the music studio to smoke some cannabis with them. Redaction stated that Redaction told Redaction not to invite Young Money to the studio because L.A. Capone, Leonard Anderson, was at the studio in a session. Redaction stated that he was aware that Anderson was a member of the Rival 600 crew. Wow. Redaction stated that he tried to get Maize back on the phone to tell him not to come to the studio. He stated that Redaction told him that Maize was no longer with him and that he had already left. Redaction stated that approximately 30 to 45 minutes later, he heard a couple of shots fired. Redaction went out back to see. Redaction then looked out and observed the victim down on the ground. Anderson's friend was screaming to Anderson, "Bro, you're good, bro?" in an attempt to aid him. Redaction stated that he left the studio before the police arrived. He stated that Redaction had to wait so that he could move his car out of the back parking lot. Redaction was subsequently interviewed by Felony Review ASA at McCarthy. Curtis related the same account as it is detailed above. Alright. Numerous efforts to locate Redacted proved negative. Michael Maize was re-interviewed on August 22nd, 2014. Maize related that he was on 51st and Prairie when Lil Mick Johnson got a phone call from Redaction. Redaction informed Johnson that L.A. Capone Anderson was in the studio. Maize stated that he asked Lil Mick Johnson and Miko Buchanan who wanted to go do this, meaning shoot Anderson. Maize stated that Johnson said he wanted to shoot Anderson. Maize explained that it was personal between Johnson and Anderson, but there was also an ongoing war between Young Money and Anderson's 600 gang. Maize stated that Buchanan got a 45 caliber pistol from the hiding spot in the vacant lot on 51st and Prairie between the tavern and a building. Maize stated that he was there on the front of the block and did not see exactly where Buchanan got the gun from. Buchanan also got a dark-colored four-door Taurus. Maize stated that Buchanan drove the Taurus with Maize seated as the front passenger and Lil Mick Johnson was seated in the rear passenger seat. Maize stated that while in the car, Buchanan gave the gun to Johnson and told him that there were only 2 or 3 rounds in it. Buchanan gave Johnson more rounds for the gun. Johnson loaded the gun in the back seat. Maize further explained that during the ride to the studio, Redaction called him and told him that Anderson was in the studio. Maize told Redacted that they already knew Anderson was there and that they were on their way to the studio so that Johnson could shoot Anderson. Maize stated that he called Amanda Fitch as they drove to the studio. He told her to meet them. Maize stated that they met Fitch at 69th and Stony Island about a block away from the studio. Maize stated that he then got into her car and told her they were going to shoot L.A. Capone and that Johnson was going to be the actual shooter. Maize stated that he and Fitch were supposed to follow behind Buchanan and Johnson to block the police from pulling them over if the police tried to stop Buchanan and Johnson while they were armed with the gun. Maize stated that Buchanan and Johnson pulled into the alley behind the studio from 70th Street and parked about 4 houses to the north of the studio. He stated that he and Fitch drove around the block and pulled into the alley from 71st Street and parked south of the studio. Maize stated that they waited approximately 15 to 20 minutes. Maize stated that he observed Anderson come out of the back of the studio and into the alley. He stated he observed that Anderson was talking on the phone. Anderson looked one way down the alley while talking on the phone. He stated that Anderson then turned and looked in Johnson's direction. Maize explained that Johnson had gotten out of the car with the gun in his hand and down along his side. Maize stated that Johnson ran up to Anderson and shot him twice. Anderson went down to the ground. Maize stated that he observed that Johnson was still trying to shoot Anderson, but it looked to him as if Johnson's gun had jammed. Johnson then ran back to the car that Buchanan was waiting in. Maize stated that Buchanan and Johnson sped off out of the alley north onto 70th Street and then west on 70th Street. Maize stated that he and Fitch followed Buchanan and Johnson out of the alley but could not keep up with them. He explained that Fitch's car is messed up and could not keep up. Maize denied that he was armed with a handgun. He further stated that Redacted informed him that Anderson did not have a gun either. He stated that had they learned that Anderson was armed with a gun, they would have still went to shoot him anyway. This is not a verbatim account, but only a summary. For a verbatim account of these interviews of Michael Maize, CERI, log number V70166. On August 22nd, the responding detectives requested a temporary release of a Cook County Jail inmate, Miko Buchanan. Buchanan was transported from Cook County Jail directly to the area's Central Detective Division. Buchanan was placed into interview room number 4, with the ERI recording equipment already activated. Buchanan was advised of his Miranda rights, to which he related he understood and waived. Buchanan stated that he is affiliated with the Met Boy street gang. He explained that the Met Boys and Young Money street gangs are affiliated with each other. Buchanan stated that the Met Boys are at war with just about every faction of the Black Disciple street gang in the city. Buchanan stated that he knows the victim L.A. Capone because Buchanan used to see his redaction. Buchanan stated that Anderson is a member of the 600 crew of BDs and is associated with redaction. He stated that he has heard one of Anderson's songs, but is unaware that Anderson was a rap artist. Buchanan stated that he knows Rockhead, Michael Maize, Lil Mick, Saki Hardy Johnson, and Big A, Amanda Fitch. He stated Fitch was murdered. He stated Maize was a seated passenger in her vehicle when she was killed. He stated that Maize is a member of the Young Money Street Gang, but that Maize is cool with Buchanan. He stated that he also knows Redacted, but not personally. Buchanan identified photos of Leonard Anderson as L.A. Capone, Michael Maize as Rockhead, Saki Hardy Johnson as Lil Mick, Amanda Fitch as Big A, Redacted, and Redacted. Buchanan stated that he was afraid to make a statement that would implicate himself, and he requested an attorney. The interview was terminated. Buchanan then asked for a McChicken sandwich and a cigarette. Detective Battellini and Hickey brought Buchanan a cigarette. He was advised to pound on the door if he needed anything. At that time, Buchanan asked if he could speak with Detective Battellini. He was advised that the detectives could not speak with him because he requested an attorney. Detectives Battellini and Hickey provided Buchanan with McDonald's food, a mattress, and water. Buchanan asked Detective Battellini if he could ask her a question. She then again advised Buchanan of his Miranda rights, to which he related he understood and waived. Buchanan stated that on the day that Anderson was murdered, Buchanan was on 51st with a large group of people having a barbecue. He explained that this was a Met Boy block. He stated that Redacted had a Taurus back then and let everyone drive it. He stated he heard a word on the street that Amanda Fitch murdered Anderson. He denied being present at the scene of the murder. This is not a verbatim account, but only a summary of the interview. To see a verbatim account of the interview, to this point, see video log number V70170. Buchanan was taken to the 002nd District lockup for fingerprinting and photographs. At that time, he again stated that he wished to speak with detectives concerning this murder. Buchanan was again advised of his Miranda rights, during which Buchanan stated reciting the Miranda warnings to the responding detectives. Excuse me. All right. He was asked to stop and allow responding detectives to advise him of the rights. Buchanan was advised of his rights, to which he related he understood and waived. Buchanan stated that it was Rockhead, Michael Maize, that got a phone call advising him that Anderson was at the music studio. He stated that Maize said, "Let's go down on him. Let's get down on him." Buchanan explained that this meant let's go kill him. Buchanan stated that he asked Maize, why is it that he was telling him? Maize replied that they needed a trail car. He stated that Redacted said that since Buchanan had a driver's license, he could follow Fitch's car in the Taurus and act as a trail car. Buchanan stated that he drove Redacted dark green or gray four-door Taurus. He stated that Maize got into the car with him. Johnson also got into the Taurus with him. He stated that the Taurus had a donut tire on it and messed up brakes, so Johnson got into Amanda Fitch's white four-door Lumina with her driving. Maize again stated words to the effect, "We're going to do this. My shorty is up there and he's trying to catch a body," meaning Lil Mick. Johnson was going to kill someone to make a name for himself. Buchanan stated they all drove over to 70th Street where the music studio was. He stated that he pulled the Taurus behind the studio and about 2 houses to the north. He stated that Maize was with him. He stated that Fitch pulled her vehicle behind the studio about 10 feet to the north of the studio. She was driving with Johnson. Buchanan stated that Johnson got out of the car into the Taurus with Buchanan and Maize. Maize asked Johnson if he was ready, and Johnson responded that he was. Buchanan stated that the victim came out into the alley in a black hoodie talking on the cell phone. He stated that Johnson got out of the car and was creeping up on the victim. Buchanan stated that Johnson shot once or twice and then tried to get back into the car with Buchanan. Buchanan stated he told Johnson not to get in his car. Johnson then got into Fitch's car. Fitch pulled away from the scene, first with Buchanan trailing. Buchanan stated that after the shooting, he pulled out of the alley and drove westbound. Buchanan explained that the purpose of being a trail car was to prevent the police from stopping the shooter's car. He explained that the police would have to stop the trail car first, which would enable the shooter to get away. Buchanan stated that Johnson was armed with a black semi-automatic pistol. He stated that he believed it was a large caliber pistol, possibly a 40 or 45 caliber. He stated that Johnson got the gun on 51st after they had gotten the call that Anderson was at the studio. He explained that while they were recruiting people to do the shooting, Johnson got the gun. He did not know exactly where he got the gun from. Buchanan further stated that they knew the gun was loaded because Johnson checked to see if a round was in the chamber when he got into the car with Buchanan and Maize. He stated that Johnson said he was straight and they pulled off. This is not a verbatim account of the interview. For a verbatim account of the interviews of Miko Buchanan, see video log number V70171. Michael Maize, Saki Hardy Johnson, and Miko Buchanan were all charged with first-degree murder and scheduled to appear in Brent 66 on the 25th of August 2014. With the arrest and charging of these three offenders and the death of offender Amanda Fitch, the responding detectives request that this assignment be classified as cleared, closed by arrest and prosecution. Report of Detectives J. Halloran, number 20453, and J. Murray, number 21128. Detectives R. Garza, number 20128, K. Battellini, number 20331, and D. Hickey, number 20723. And that concludes our L.A. Capone leaked homicide report. I know this was a long one. I hope you guys stayed tuned in until the end. Drop in the comments what you think of this case. I have my own opinions. I mean, this was my first time reading it through. I can't wait to comment back and forth with you guys. Thanks a lot. Subscribe, like, and comment. Thanks.